All right, everybody, it's Monday night. You know, we love to get it on here. Now, Smoke told me before we got on here and went live, right? He doesn't want any shenanigans to start, right? He don't want
None.
he doesn't want me to repeat any of the wild things that he's texted me all throughout the week and over the weekend. He
Reed,
wants
you know what? I'm gonna give you one. Whatever the wildest one that I pulled out of my back pocket to unfold to you, to drop a small gem on you. I'm gonna let you rock with it. Give it to me.
well, you said that Caitlin Clark is the greatest women's player and she hasn't won a championship.
I never said that. That's what I'm saying again. I never said that. Go back and read that one again. Listen, you can read real well. That ain't a problem. It's even in your last name. But reading and seeing are two different things. Like you're blind, but you read real well. So I don't know if it's braille or whatever you do, but it works.
So
I
you didn't
said there's a Caitlin Clark effect. Whenever she comes back, it seems like great things happen. That's it.
So my only question to you is: do great things not equal winning? Is winning not the greatest thing?
You know what? To answer your question, I believe, and I'm going to agree and say yes. That's the reason why we all play a game or do anything so you can have overall success. But just like I try to explain to my kids, like the journey counts as well too. And I think the journey that she's taking us on in terms of what she's doing in the W is outstanding for the women's game.
Mhm.
Just coming back off of 2 weeks being out from a strained quad, she comes out and she defeats the New York Liberty. They were 9-0, the best team in the W. She comes back out shooting logo threes. I just don't think you really understand how impactful her game truly is. She's 6 footer,
Yes,
handles
yes.
easily. Once you get into the rhythm of the season, I think it'd be a 40, 50, 90 player, averaging 25 plus, 10 assists. And again, she's a 6 footer, so she can rebound well. Sees the floor well, great passer, phenomenal shooter. I get what you're saying about winning because again, it should that should come with how good she is. But sometimes, just like Aaron Rodgers and some great players, Kevin Durant, sometimes that part of it is missing. I mean, it's too
Well,
early for her in her.
KD has two championships, sir.
You didn't even let me finish. KD, Aaron Rodgers, Alex Rodriguez, in my humble opinion, are maybe the most talented players at their sport, or arguably. We can get in a conversation with that, right?
Hmm.
Aaron to me is the best skill set in terms of a quarterback. KD offensively can do whatever he
The
wants,
prototype.
right? A Rod, Alex Rodriguez, on the baseball diamond, whatever you want. But there's always something missing in terms of inspiring others around them to play at a higher level in order for them to have overall team success. While you have a guy like Tom Brady that's not as talented as Aaron, but he has the it factor, and everyone around him raises their level of play in order to win. So again, I haven't seen Caitlin Clark do that. Hopefully, she can get to that, but that's something that you learn over a period of time. Maybe she has that it factor, maybe she doesn't, but I understand what she is. Physically, she's gifted,
Well, fortunately, it's a conversation that you and I can keep having to the
no
end of
doubt.
time. We talk every day, right?
Right.
So I think that, and we're not going to stay with the people long today, so we want people to come in as soon as possible. But one of the conversations we've been having over the last week, and it kind of stemmed from a former high school teammate of mine has a son that's a really good prospect. He's a receiver DB, and we see this a lot, right? And when you start evaluating the recruiting game, and you get like sometimes you get that film, right? And a guy say, well, when you say what position does a kid play? A guy say, Well, he can do anything. He's a receiver. He's a DB. He can play running back. He can get in the slot. He can play safety. He can return kicks. In my experience,
Mm-hmm.
guys who can't get honed in on a position, they end up not playing because they kind of circle them around from group to group. So if you are a receiver DB guy, you can be a tweener, you can be a linebacker safety guy, you can be one of those old linemen that really wants to be on the D line. Whatever your projection is, how are you getting guys to hone in on one position?
Well, my first question, Reed, and I'm gonna ask the player, like, what do you see yourself as? And then when you describe that to me, how do you believe you're going to achieve that? Because if you say that you are, say, let's go back to the DB receiver conversation, and your hands are good, not great, understanding of route concept and just taking in the full playbook on offense just hasn't come to you as easily as it is going on the other side and understanding how to play cover, smother, cover one. I'm gonna say, listen, your skill set, your hands, your ability to play the ball in the air as a defensive back is really good to elite. You can cover. You're 6'1". You run a 4-4-4-3. On the other side, there's a bunch of receivers that do that. But you come over here on this side, there's only a few that can play the ball in the air, track it, finish it with a catch, not a PBU. And you're willing to be a tackler. So if NFL is your dream, you'll have a better opportunity playing on this side. Just like if we're talking about a defensive lineman that's just not quick twitched enough. Right? Feet aren't that agile. Hips a little bit tight, not truly explosive, not the bend and chase type of guy that you would like. But when you look at his athleticism and his traits, transcends better to being an offensive lineman. Now, that's when we got to have the conversation of saying, hey, listen, you can always play defensive line, but you're going to be number 9 or 10, meaning that you're not going to be in a rotation. Or you can come over on the other side where you're not going to get that much glitz, glamour, glory, praise, and have an opportunity to play at the next level. Because when you go to the combine and you test and you're an offensive lineman and you run a 4.8, that's excellent. If you run a 4.8 as a defensive lineman, like, okay, that's okay, but there's a guy over there that's running a 4.6 that look better than you and moves better than you. So you just have to afford who you can afford to be and understand who you want to be. And I'm never going to ever tell a player what they need to play or what they have to play. Because if I'm convincing you to do it every day, there's not a thirst and a desire that you have inside of you that you want to become what I see in you. And whenever I want more out of it than you do, yeah, I'm going to lose every single time because you don't care about winning.
Those conversations, though, also become very tough because most of the time, by the time we're talking about a kid ends up playing Division I football or college football at any level, he's probably been the best player on his team. He's at least one of them. He's been the best player through youth football, and there's been a lot of allowing him to do what he wants to do or allowing him to do what his parents want him to do. But if the ultimate goal is getting to the money, if the ultimate goal is creating value for yourself professionally, what I always told my guys is how I would handle the position conversation in recruiting is I would play the position the school was recruiting me to play. So if you down to 5 schools and 2 of them like you as a DB and 3 of them like you as a receiver, and then you got another school that's kind of willing to let you do whatever you want to do, I think if you want to play receiver, you should go to one of the schools that believes in you as a wide receiver.
Correct.
If you want to play DB, you should go to one of the schools who believes in you as a defensive back. Because when the coach says to you, I'm going to give you the opportunity to compete, play what you want to play, that's all fine and good. But if he really has made up in his mind that you can help the team at another position, that's ultimately what you're going to end up doing with very few exceptions. So I think that most of the time the disconnect smoke comes in because a lot of times, man, this is the first time somebody has told the kid what he should do or what he has to do, and that creates a tricky situation.
And that most of the time, Carl, what you just said is the truth. A lot of these young guys aren't being told the truth. A lot of athletes aren't being told, listen, you can, but this is the way that we're going to. It's most of the time the athlete telling the professional or the coach or the adult in the room what we're going to do. And again, I allow people or players to have an opinion if they truly understand what the outcome is going to look like. But in my knowledge, in my years of being on this earth, that's why they have a coach. That's why they have people in personnel department. That's why they have trainers. That's why they have mentors. That's why you have parents. So they can give you the direction that you need to go in and just work with it.
You know, you see this, people talk about receiver DBs, but this is a bigger problem for linemen, I think, than it is any
Huge.
position. Because every old lineman wants to play on the D line. Most of
Yeah.
them, right? And so when you get into recruiting, you run into a lot of guys that could potentially be pros that could play for a decade, but like you said, they lack twitch, they lack maybe lateral movement, the explosiveness, because D linemen can really run. People don't
Yeah.
realize how fast those big guys really are. And they would rather be a rotational piece in college, or the quote they use, to bet on themselves.
Yeah. You know what, Reed? The quote, betting on yourself is gambling, right?
Yeah.
You and I have been to plenty of casinos, and you know a few more bookies than I do.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why anybody wants to hear about betting on yourself is the majority of the time you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't the fact. That ain't the way you want to go.
We got a good comment here. This is from Coach Billy Parker. So how does this compare to Lamar Jackson's process during the college aspect? And Smoke, I always like these kind of comments
One off.
because to me it's also very misleading, right? Lamar Jackson is one of one.
Right.
He's the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you start saying, well, Lamar Jackson did it, and you comparing that to 100 other kids, it just typically doesn't add up.
Right.
And so I think that that's always a mistake that guys make.
And Billy, you always have to take the percentage rule. What percentage of players can say that they're Lamar Jackson? It's not like Lamar wasn't a Heisman Trophy winner at the quarterback position.
Was one of the top two quarterbacks coming out of high school as well.
Correct. It's not like Lamar didn't operate in the Bobby Petrino's offense, which is a pass-first offense, throughout his career in college. So that wasn't every NFL decision maker's mindset with Lamar. You only heard one or two, or maybe even a few, but that wasn't everyone. And it's not every team that said, we want you to only play another position. It was just said by a few, and people ran with it. And everybody always wants to have a well, I told you so story. But again, betting on yourself and betting overall is not a key to success of having consistent production, doing anything. You'll go broke more betting on yourself than you do playing the percentage.
We got a question here from Noy Garrett. What about the undersized quarterback? That
When we talk about undersized, Carl, let's put a number on it. So we're saying 5'10", right?
Yeah, let's say 5'10" guy.
I'm a personnel guy, former general manager, University of Maryland. Also worked in the personnel department at Vanderbilt as director of scouting. Worked in the NFL, general manager, DC Defenders. So I've rarely looked at a high school defensive back and wanted to evaluate him as a defensive back. I always wanted to look at the quarterbacks, the receivers as defensive back. And that's old school thinking, but the best player on most football teams is a quarterback that's athletic. So if I can get the undersized guy to understand that you are now going to be on the defensive side, just because your skill set, short area quickness, explosive first step, speed, burst. You feel comfortable with the ball in your hand. That's the first thing that a DB has to understand. Be comfortable when the ball's in the air. Be comfortable when your back is turned to the quarterback. And most quarterbacks, Reed, are comfortable at all times because the pressure is on them. So most undersized quarterbacks can be good defensive backs or can be good slot receivers because they have good hands and eye-hand coordination.
I'm going to push you the other way on this, though.
Go ahead.
Because a lot of undersized quarterbacks can't run, right? So when you're playing defensive football, the quarterback is the hardest position to account for. It's usually outnumbering you in defensive run fits, right? So since you're outnumbered in defensive run fits, you can be a 4.7 or a 4.8 guy, but look extremely fast going against defenses. But when you start putting that guy, and this goes back to something that we've talked about week after week, can that undersized quarterback run? And the only way we know if he can really run is if we go to count and we get
put him on the clock
to put him on the clock.
Right.
And if he does well in the 40, if he does well in the 10-5, 10 shuttle, and we can see that he can run, then we have some ability to move that guy into the secondary or to another position. But if we find out that he's really a 4.75 or 4.8, or if he won't run, right, he puts us in a really tough eval situation.
Well, Reed, you and I both know it, man. You got to get on the clock. You have to show up to camp in order to prove yourself, especially if you have the tag of being undersized. Because there's not a lot of people that's going to take a lot of undersized players. You got to be different. You got to be natural with the ball in your hands. There has to be something else with you if you're truly undersized. When we're talking about undersized quarterback, I'm going to say we're talking about someone between under 6 foot, 5'10" range. Anything shorter than that, Reed, yeah, I'm not looking at it because you have to be truly special once you start talking about 5'8", 5'9". There's another level for you. It's called Division I AA.
We got a great comment from Steve Keim, general manager of football at Clutch Sports Group, former GM of the Arizona Cardinals. He says it's all about comp smoke. Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray gave us the comp. That being said, if you're a smaller guy, you have to have rare compensating traits. So right. When we talk about compensating traits, we talking about Kyler Murray is a really fast dude. You know, we talking about Russell Wilson has some great intangibles, both also high draft picks in baseball. So when you start talking about leadership, when you start talking about
tangible traits,
right? So I think it's levels to it, but you just can't say when you come in, it's important to say, you just can't say, well, he's an undersized quarterback, so we can move him to the secondary. Right. You have to be able to see some other things.
Right.
We got a question on here from Mega Bucks where he asks, what about undersized linemen? So I was an undersized lineman. I was a 5'10" offensive lineman. I played FCS football. So I think if you're an undersized lineman, you're going to probably have to go down a level.
Correct.
You're going to have to go FCS. You're going to have to go Division II. Now, the positive thing now is that if you play really well and you put out great tape, you're going to be able to potentially move up. But we start also talking about compensating traits. What's your bench press? What's your squat? What's your power clean, your deadlift? Some of those other compensating traits that you have to have.
Reed, you know what? Smoke ain't gonna lie to you. I'm a height and weight police. I'm gonna arrest you. If you're a lineman and you're under 6 foot, I'm gonna arrest you. I'm gonna send you right down to the level of jail that you need to go to. And that's a lower level. And again, that's not saying that you're not a good football player, but if you're 6 foot and you're going against 6'4", longer arms, explosive, can knock you back, yeah, that's going to put everybody else in a bad situation. It's going to get me fired. And again, that's not saying that you're not a good football player, but not a good football player at this level. And I think everyone should understand that everyone has a level to play at, and everyone has a particular skill set. And if you drop down the level and you're playing at an elite skill level at the Division I AA, and you're playing good, you're a good football player. Mm-hmm. It's just not an SEC, Big 10, ACC, Big 12 type of competition that you're going to have to face.
It's levels to it. It's tough being a 5'10" guy going against 6'4", 6'5", 320-pound guys that have long reach, that have length, that have that. And so you have to be able – there has to be a cutoff. The problem is I saw in the Facebook group yesterday. This kid puts in there, I'm 6 foot, I'm 275. He has a picture with his shirt off. He looks, I should have had a picture up. He looks ripped. He says, I got all these offers, but they're just Division II offers. What position can I move to go Division I? Guys like, well, you should play linebacker. What he probably doesn't have the skills to play linebacker, which is why he's on the line in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Or he should play this, he should play that. What he should do is he should go to Division II and he should dominate.
Should dominate and get a good job and have a good life.
Yeah, like, and if you dominate, somebody give you the opportunity to come up.
Yeah,
right?
Smoke won't. I would smoke.
We got another question from Billy. He asked thoughts on Bryce Young because Bryce Young is a shorter guy. And once again, we're talking about an exception to the rule guy, you know, when you start talking about Bryce.
And even with Bryce, he went first overall. I think he was he was probably the number 1 rated player coming out of high school. Yeah, in the NFL, he's struggling. Just because of his height, size, he struggles. Pushing the ball vertically down the field, being able to take hits, stand in the pocket. It's always going to come back and rear its head. It's a big man's game. And like you said, if you are the one-off and you have that particular skill, you're still going to have to try to overcome your deficiencies every single day.
I think another thing with Bryce Young, too, is, I mean, he played at Mater Dei, which is consistently been one of the three best, a small number, high school programs in the country who have produced other Heisman winners. Matt Leinart went there. I think was Carson Palmer a Mater Dei guy.
I don't know exactly.
It's a couple other quarterbacks that play. Matt Barkley was a Mater Dei guy. Very well coached by Bruce Rollinson, elite level coaching, elite program. And then he went and played in the SEC at Bama. So it's all a little different. Like, we got to stop when we're dealing with kids at a large group. We got to stop pointing to the one guy that made it and kind of leading them to believe that they should bet in that direction on being the one guy. Because I just think that that's tough. You got to put these kids in the right situation and give them real good information. Steve Keim says the best 2 centers he's ever evaluated were Ryan Khalil and Jason Kelce, but they're rare and they won with technique and leverage. He also said that Bryce Young showed the ability to move around in the pocket well with the ball. Now, Smoke hates centers, Steve.
I'm not even going to touch that. I'm going to let Steve win with that.
We're going to have that conversation another day because we can.
Yeah, I just know that Saquon Barkley just rushed for 2,000 yards, and I didn't even know that Jason Kelce didn't play.
We're not doing that today.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying.
This is a question because I ran the wing T. High school coach. I ran the wing T.
The clock is winding down,
and we had tons of guys go Division I. So one of the comments that I see on social media a lot, and I get parents call me. I probably talk to more parents than anybody. They say, well, if my kid goes and plays in the wing T, he can't get a scholarship. He plays in the flex bone or the veer, the split back veer, he can't get a scholarship. Smoke, would you tell him nothing's further from the truth?
Nothing. Listen, I'm not judging any player on the scheme that they run. I am solely evaluating off your skill sets, your developmental upside, your character, and your ability to help whatever school that I'm at once you come here for 4 to 5 years. That's it. I don't care what Carl Reed ran in high school to win games. I got nothing to do with that. It's my ability to go in, evaluate his physical traits critically, the critical factors, explosiveness, speed, eye-hand coordination. So I'm talking about a receiver, short area quickness, burst, ability to get out of his break, ability to play and win contested balls, the ability to vacuum and catch in traffic. Like, those are the skill sets that I'm looking for. I'm pretty sure that once I cut the film on, I'm going to see Carl throw a slant, a fade. When you run that waggle, I know when you run a post, I can evaluate all that. And if I can't do all that due to the fact that Carl's running the wing T offense, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to invite him to camp, and I'm going to evaluate him on a even neutral site to see those skill sets show up?
As somebody who had virtually every college in the country came through my school when I coached, I never had a coach say, "Coach, I can't eval this kid because you guys are running the wing team. I
Never
can't
heard that.
I can't eval this kid because you run the ball more than you throw it."
You know what else I never did, Carl? I never told a coach I can't evaluate your kid because he's playing at a particular high school or a particular level. That's far from the truth. Wherever you go and whatever level that you're playing at, it's my job as the evaluator to assess your ability fairly.
And it's so crazy because I think guys that are part of winning programs probably have an advantage because coaches like winners. So typically, there's a lot of high school coaches right now that will win more games if they stop throwing the ball every play.
Stop trying to play pretty.
Yeah, because none of them coach quarterbacks that can play like that. Well, it's a handful of guys, but for the most part, I think it's really really tough to evaluate guys like that. But that's also another reason why you have to go to camp, why you have to compete, because you can go to camp and show that you have the ability to do those things, and guys that can really evaluate talent are going to evaluate you. But parents are really, really up in arms a lot of the time about my kid is playing in the wing T. It's not all. I had 5, 6 running backs go Division I during that stretch, and nobody said, well, they can't play. Offensive guys, defensive guys, multiple receivers, guys who learn how to beat you in one-on-one coverage. So the things that you need to be able to play football at the highest level are size, or speed, or the physical traits that
Reed, there's a receiver named Calvin Megatron Johnson. Paul Johnson got to Georgia Tech. You know what they ran?
Flex ball.
Triple
option.
Maybe one of the greatest receivers ever to play in the NFL.
Shout out to Paul Johnson, legendary triple option coach.
Listen, Bebe.
Yeah, he was another one.
Yeah, Demetrius Thomas. Like Bebe played in the wing T.
Even when you think about but even when you go to the high school level, Reggie Bush played in the wing T.
Yeah.
Alex Smith ended up being the #1 quarterback in the draft. He played in the wing T.
A lot of Urban Meyer's quarterbacks was a quarterback run system, single wing offense
that produced Heisman Trophy winning guys.
Yeah.
Smoke, what do you think about? I'm starting to get a lot of middle school and youth football rankings questions. What do you think about? What's your feeling on guys getting ranked at the middle school and the youth football levels now?
Too early, waste of time, because you're talking about 10, 11, 12-year-olds. You haven't even been through puberty yet. You haven't been through your biggest growth as a person, physically or mentally or emotionally. Like, Reed, I'm gonna tell you like this. In middle school, I probably was never even ranked. 2 years of my high school career, I wasn't ranked. But by my junior and senior year, I was ranked. So I get if you're in a particular place that you have really good grassroots programs and youth football programs, you want to be ahead of the curve and make sure that you get guys on your campus. But if you're ranking a 10, 11, or 12-year-old and trying to project them, you're wasting your time. My humble opinion. Because they're going to change.
One of my examples that I use is always Kerry Davis, and Kerry is normally on here with us Monday night. His son had a game tonight. Kerry, all through Little League, he played on the O-line. He was an O-lineman until we got to high school. And there were other great backs. He was on a really good team. I don't want to say the other guys' names because I don't want anybody to get upset and get offended by what I'm about to say. But Kerry, when we went to high school, Kerry ended up playing fullback. We win the state championship. He goes on to Illinois and wins the Big Ten playing for Ron Turner. And he ends up winning the Super Bowl starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And all of those other guys who were quote-unquote better than him in Little League, none of those guys touched the league. And none of those guys ended up being great college players, right? So if you would have put a lot of emphasis on what happened in youth football, I just think that you really, really would have missed the boat.
Yeah,
You know,
say it like I just said, Reed. Wasting time. Reed, I grew 3-4 inches over summer. Went from 5'7" to 5'10" and a quarter.
yeah. I mean,
It happens.
my brother went from 5'10" to 6'4" in the summer.
Like and when you go, and even when I was coaching in college, I'll go in the spring of one year, show back up in the spring the next year, and be like, whoa, I thought he was playing running back. No, coach, now he's playing defensive end. So you have to really track it and understand the developmental growth of players. That's where you have to track hand size of the player's shoulders, length, parents, genetics plays a ton. And weigh it out. But if you're ranking 10, 11, 12-year-olds, like they're just out there learning how to compete and teaching the game and teaching whoever's coaching it, teaching the game the proper way and how to play it and how to have respect and how to be a good teammate. Those are the times that's what you're spending time on.
I talk about it a lot and guys get upset with me, but we got 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids playing 50 football games in a year. I mean, we got guys playing 40, 50. They traveling all over the country. They playing multiple games in a weekend, right? And I think that kills development. I think it starts physical problems very early. You only have so many hits in you in football. I just think it's really tough to handle for kids.
Reed, I would tell any parent that if you are traveling 2 to 3 states just to go play a pickup basketball game, a track meet, or a baseball game, you're wasting your time because you can do that locally. You can develop all the skill sets that you want. You go play pickup basketball and get really good playing basketball. You go out in the backyard and hit baseballs over and over and over again and get really, really good. You don't need to travel to Texas if you're in Maryland to find out if you're really good in any sport. My humble opinion. I remember seeing guys play AAU ball when we're in the 3rd, 4th grade, traveling all over the place. Reed, they still on the block.
Yeah.
They don't have nothing to do with your overall development.
You know what's crazy about it too, Smoke, is they do it mostly for the parents and they do it for the adults. So they can have bragging rights and so they can win arguments, and on Facebook groups and stuff like that. Because if you're not even the best in your area, you don't got no business traveling nowhere till you can beat everybody in your area.
Right. And even if you're the best in your area at 10 years old, that does not mean you're going to be the best in your area at 16 years old.
Most of the time, you're not going to be.
Because you might stop growing.
Yeah.
Like that might have been your peak. My kids are running summer track now. And I try to explain to them. I said, all we're doing is we're running against the clock. Disregard medals, disregard place. We're just trying to learn how to run, the proper mechanics of running, competing, working on your endurance. That's it. And we're working on running against the clock. If a medal comes in, if a place comes in, we take it. But we're not focused on that. And every parent's out there, we didn't get a medal. Like the medal, that's going to come. But it's a journey, Reed. How are you practicing? How are you going back to practice? Are you getting faster? Are you running against quality competition to compete every day? When you're running against someone and someone's in front of you, do you have it inside of you go walk that person down? If somebody's on your heels, can you finish the race? Can you be a good teammate? Those are the things that we're missing out of the youth and teaching them at that point, because we're all talking about winning. We got to win, win, win. Like the win is going to take care of itself. You only can win one game, but there's so many journeys through practice and life lessons that you can learn throughout the entire process to be a better person.
People say that because when you initially talk to parents, when you initially talk to people, they say that's the experience that they want, but they don't mean it. They get really caught up into what are people in the neighborhood saying? What are people saying about me on the internet? What are people saying about our team online? Because every state, every city has a Facebook group a youth sports Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm like, man, do people got to actually go to work? Like every post gets 300, 400, 500 comments of people just arguing, over the thing. And nobody's worried about what's really important, what really separates you when you go to the next level. Do you have competitiveness? Do you have competitive greatness? Right? Can you be a good teammate? Because people don't realize they so worried about getting theirs, they don't realize how much of theirs is ours,
Right.
as a team, right?
As a team, us.
And if you can be a great teammate, you got to make your game work within the confines of the team and helping us win. That's the only way that you move forward.
Learn how to compete.
This is a great comment by Donald Fuse where he says the biggest thing is people get jealous of other people's blessings, right? And that's very true. One guy takes off, one guy goes, whatever the case is, and it really puts people in their feelings.
Reed, one thing that I learned about blessings? My blessings for me. And you can't stop my blessings from coming to me, regardless of what you do.
Now, you mentioned track.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to touch on this for a second. Should skilled guys be running track?
Absolutely. If you're a skilled player and during the winter months you're not playing basketball, I question you. During the spring, if you're not a baseball player and you're not running track, I truly question you again. Because it's a true determining factor and a separator of athletes, especially the skill position. Can you run? And everyone will say, oh, yeah, I'm fast. Do you know the proper mechanics of running? Fast people run, and the more you run, the faster you get. And that creates a whole nother set of competitiveness. Because again, I think what track does for your understanding how to work, Reed, it's an individual sport that it's you and you can't hide. It's the clock and you can't beat the clock. And there's always going to be someone that might just be as fast as you are. But do you have what it takes in a 200 to dig in the last 20 meters while your back is locking up, while you're tired to finish the race? Can you run a 4x4 when you're really only a 1 or 200 runner? Your back is going to hurt on that last 100 meters. But do you have what it takes? And again, I go to a track meet during the spring when I'm evaluating. Those are the things that I'm looking for. I'm going to ask your track coach. If you guys are in the region, you're a couple of points away, you need Johnny to run a 400, to run on the 4. Is he going to do it? And if he says, nah, because he's not but he can run though. If he says yes, I understand who you are. You think we before me, us before I.
This is a good question from Dante. He says, can high school track coaches actually help a kid with speed, Smoke?
Absolutely.
Can they get them faster?
Yeah, Reed, the more you run, the faster you get. You run fast, you get fast. Simple as that. And again, you're just trying to stay in cardiovascular shape. You're just trying to always be in enough shape to never to be out of shape. Reed, I was never out of shape in high school because I was always doing something. Mm-hmm. After football season, I went right to the basketball court. After basketball, I went right to the track. And then I did summer track, came right back to the football field. So I was always doing something. And I never got out of shape. Never needed a trainer because whatever I was working on, if it was track and field with my footwork, or just my agility, I was always doing it. Go ahead.
Now, we got to be honest, though, because it was a different time when we grew up. Mm-hmm. A lot of coaches are trying to force kids into playing one sport and trying to focus on the year round. You got the football guys that are saying, I don't want you to do track or do any of that. I want you to train and do 7-on-7. You got the basketball coaches. They want to monopolize the kid all year from basketball straight into AAU. You got the baseball coaches are probably the worst. Multiple sports, Smoke. They make it extremely, extremely tough on you to be able to do multiple things. So how do guys get around that right now?
Well, Reed, I know you think I'm old, and we're the same age. Like we all battled those same coaches. But it's on the parent to understand, and on the athlete to also understand that it's your job to be a multi-sport athlete. It's okay to say, hey, coach, listen, you have me for this semester, but I'm going over here to go hoop. I had those tough conversations, and I had to live with it, and I'm okay with it. I was just a single sport guy, a multi-sport guy. So I had to show up and show out. I knew that my teammates in basketball was counting on me. My track teammates was counting on me. And after each season, like I waved goodbye. And there's not a coach that could tell me, if you don't come out, if you don't do this, you're not going to play. My answer was them, hey, listen, how bad do you want to win? Because if you tell me that I can't play, then you're being selfish as well, too. And what you always teach the team, I have to go be a good teammate to my basketball teammates, my track teammates, and also my summer track teammates. So practice what you preach, coaches.
I'm going to tell you this. This is also a building hack is what I call it. The more sports you play, the more people you get to be advocates of you as you go to school in life. You got a tough biology class and that guy's on the basketball staff, go play basketball for him and help him win games. It draws you closer together. And the other people, other students, other teachers in the school get to build a relationship with you, and they don't just see you as a football mercenary.
Right.
Which is how most people view you when you go into those and do that. So we got a comment here. I love this comment, right? I'm a big believer that all linemen can benefit from wrestling. So I'm not a big wrestling guy, Chop. Let me say this. I don't have an issue with kids wrestling, so I don't want you to beat me up. I've never believed, Smoke, that wrestling makes you better in football.
It teaches you a particular skill of a balance, center of balance and body control. But again, to each his own, Reed, right? There's some people that's their art and their sport. Which again, your centers are usually the ones that wrestle. You know how I feel about them. But most big guys that are athletic are going to be on the basketball court. Or during track season, they're going to be a shot put, discus. So I don't not wrestling because I think wrestling teaches you, again, another level of toughness, Reed, because that's an individual sport. It's tough. Against your opponent. And I think it's tough. But I'm not with you all the way. But most athletic big people are hooping.
Last thing we're going to touch on, and then we're going to head out for the night. University of California announced that Ron Rivera, the GM, the head coach, now has to report to him. And so this is the second school. Stanford did that. So I feel like because Stanford did that with Andrew Luck, that they kind of feel compelled to do the same thing. Obviously, Coach Rivera is a long-time NFL coach.
Right.
Cal, the same way Luck is from Stanford. Are we going to see football start to shift in a way where the head coach is answering to the GM, similar to the professional model?
Well, Reed, you know what? It's not always the case on every professional team. And I think when people hear the word answer, they get into the bad mind frame of thinking that they're the boss. In every successful program or organizations I've been around, the general manager, head coach, they work hand in hand. The head coach understands that the general manager heads up personnel, and he's going to give that coach the best ingredients, which are players, in order for the coach to go out there and develop them and win games. And I think if you're not working well with that person, a good understanding of a good work-friend relationship, that you're going to struggle. Because everyone's going to always want the final word. And if the final word in personnel is GM, fine, it's his department. But you always are going to have to balance the personnel and coaches relationship, which has to work hand in hand. And I've always said, I don't care who's in charge and who answers to who. At the end of the day, if we can't answer and win games together, neither one of us are going to have a conversation anywhere else other than the unemployment line.
Are the guys on the coaching staff, do you think that they really struggling giving up some of that control though to the front office, to the personnel? Because the old school way, the guy ran his room, he can recruit who he wants, but now he's being asked to relinquish some of his power over who gets offered and who gets signed.
And Reed, look at it this way. It's not relinquishing power. It's understanding that you can't do it all. And understand that if you have a real good personnel office, they're going to get you exactly what you need because you're going to describe who and what works for you and what's working for the program. And I've always said it. I've never been, when I was in the personnel role, I was never able to come over and coach your guys up and tell you how to call plays. But I respect what you do to be able to stand back and allow you to do that. I just think the more coaches understand that personnel guys, this is their field, allow the people in personnel to do their job, the easier the transition is going to be for the work relationship between personnel and coaches. And when you have that good understanding, it's seamless, bro. It works.
Why is it so hard for guys to come to that understanding right now?
In colleges, it's hard just because they've never done it before. And they've always worn both hats of saying, I can go out there and evaluate. But right now, Reed, we're all playing for the money. Players are getting paid. And I don't believe that a coach should have the sole responsibility of doing 3 jobs: going out, identifying the talent, recruiting the talent, but also coaching the talent. I think that's a recipe for disaster, especially when we're talking about the business part of it. And I've always said it to you, Reed, when business meets emotions, that's a bad recipe for disaster. But when you can separate emotion from the business, that's personnel doing their part in identifying the talent, coaches recruiting with personnel also helping recruiting, and coaches coaching, developing, and cultivating a relationship. I think that's the best format for the direction that we're going in right now.
Steve Keim said here during his time with the Arizona Cardinals, him and Bruce Arians won over 50 games in 5 years because they respected each other's position.
That's it.
But just in general, like even people that are watching this that work regular jobs, it's hard to get people to get along on the job. It's one of the toughest things to do.
Reed, and the reason why I had some success in Maryland, well, a lot of success, I would say, with Coach Loxley, because we both respected each other's mind. And we both knew that our intentions was to get the best for the University of Maryland. Like, I'm not there to say my guy. Like, once he signed with us, he's our guy. Once we've identified that talent of saying this is a talent that we're going after, yeah, we're all into the recruiting and the development of that player. No man should go into the corner and be like, well, they didn't want my guy. That's when the fracture starts. Mm-hmm. And if you, again, are developing team building, team concept, once we decide it's we, there's no more I and there's no more me.
And this is the thing that a lot of guys can't accept either. Smoke, a lot of guys can't do both. They're guys that are great coaches, but they don't do a great job evaluating talent. They're guys that are great coaches, but they don't recruit well. There's guys that are great recruiters, but they have no business trying to teach you how to run an offense or a defense. They can't coach at all. So you got to really have some self-awareness also with who you are as a coach and what your strengths and weaknesses are as well.
And to wrap it up, I'm always going to preach self-awareness. Know who you are. Know what your value is. Know what your strengths are. If your strengths are not evaluating, lean on that personnel guy and say, hey, listen, man, that ain't really my forte. If you're a phenomenal recruiter, bro, lean on your GA to help coach your guys up, but dominate in your area and work in your area and always trying to work on your weakness to somewhat make it towards your strength.
Well, guys, we're going to get out of here tonight. We're going to wrap this up. NBA Finals is on.
Yeah, the Thunder at them right now.
They at them. They on top of them right now.
Yeah.
Well, so listen, before we get out of here, man, I don't want you to send me any messages about Caitlin Clark this week.
You still on that?
I'm still on that.
Listen,
you do. I mean, you can't say I'm still on it. You send it to me at least every other day. You
read. I think. Listen again. You can read. You can't see a lot when I'm telling. That ain't me. All I do is comment and say, you know what? I agree. I agree. I agree. And then you say, oh, all I want to know is championship. She's only been in the league for 2 years, Reed. Give her a chance.
No high school title, no college title either. But
are we evaluating of high school, college, or we in the W right now?
Angel Reese won 3 state championships in high school, the national championship.
Is that the only player that you want to bring up?
No, it's a bunch of them. We'll do that on another day.
I'm not talking back. That ain't a basketball conversation.
Enjoy your evening, man. My kids are playing PlayStation. Your kids want to play it too. Tell them to come to Uncle Carl's house so they can play the PS5. You don't allow that type of thing in your house.
Reed, you don't even know what's going on right now. My kids are in a summer program. They got 1 more week. Ain't no days off, bro.
Listen, my kids in a summer program, but when they come home, they can play the PS5.
Reading books.
Enjoy your evening, guys.